Welcome to Explosive Enterprises, and in my never-ending quest to find a gear setup I'm actually happy with, I stumbled upon the Kommandostore P84 2.0, a new iteration of their modern reinterpretation of the South African P83 rig I mentioned a bit in our prior gear setups video. As well, having lost some weight, I found that my old bar's Gorka no longer fits me, so I figured I'd do a 2-for-1 and also try out Kommandostore's K2 Gorka while I'm at it. So first, for a bit of context, I've had and used a P83 rig for 4 or 5 years now, and while this is a fine rig for its age, and I praised the general concept and design in the aforementioned previous video, there are some details about it I found suboptimal. X-harnesses in general I find are annoying to adjust and can be uncomfortable with heavier loads. These mag pouches are excessively deep as they are designed to accommodate Galil magazines. It tends to sag forward with enough weight because it doesn't have much structure, and the side pouches have very specific shapes which limit their versatility. In 2023, Kommandostore released what they called the P84, a modern reproduction with changes that added laser-cut molly loops and changed the mag pouches, but still retained the overall shape and the X-harness. With the P84 2.0, they made more substantive changes that caught my eye. The biggest is the replacement of the X-harness with a more modern H-harness design, incorporating the usual quick-release buckles and cable management loops. These straps are unpadded, relying on the natural weight distribution of the 2 layers of thick cordura, but the large surface area distributes weight well, and this is a comfortable rig up to its practical limit for load capacity. The H-harness attaching fairly narrowly at the front also helps to avoid the sag common to the P83, and I'm told also an issue in the previous P84s. The rig stabilizes with a simple cross strap on the back, nothing surprising here, so all in all this is a pretty standard modern H-harness setup. The panel itself is where things get interesting. The front middle has 3 mag pouches, just like on the original P83, but as you can see, the pouches themselves are noticeably shorter, using long flaps instead to accommodate longer mags. Each cell can comfortably hold up to 2 AR, AK, or FAL mags. Retention is assisted by elastic, but I'm not wild about it being sewn in rather than using shock cord, partly because the retention is non-adjustable and partly because this will eventually wear out with use. Regardless, with 3 cells, this rig can accommodate a combat load and keeps it right up front in a compact arrangement protected by big flaps that are easy to grab, and since they're all sewn pouches, it stays nice and stable. That frees up the sides for support items, and to that end, it has a pair of utility pouches for, well, whatever really. These aren't canteen pouches, but they're big enough to fit a couple of smaller items together. I find myself normally keeping a radio and external battery bank for my GoPro in my left pouch, and a speed loader and extra blanks in my right pouch, but of course there is a lot of flexibility here. The rig also has a tiny pouch on the side of each outer mag pouch, which can accommodate a Leatherman, lighter, pen, tactical, Slim Jim. Honestly not a whole lot, but if it were any bigger it'd get in the way. And lastly, each side has 2 columns of laser cut molly. Here I'm using one on each side for a pair of unobtainium gear flashbang pouches, though I switched them both to the right side after filming, but it would be easy enough to also add a dedicated radio pouch or other small pouches to free up more space in the universal ones. Lastly, it still retains the P83's internal front flap for maps and other documents. Not much more to say. Despite not using this rig to its full capacity, I'm very happy with the design, again tying back to the prior load-bearing equipment video. It keeps a full combat load of 6 mags up front and center, it has ample space for secondary items I want on my rig, and it has some provision for further expansion if needed without getting too bulky under the arms. I could maybe see myself still using my previous Onward Recce rig if I only needed 4 mags, a radio, and a single grenade, but for a full rifleman setup, the P84 holds everything I need it to, up front and easy to access without getting as bulky as an RRV or equivalent. I will point out though that for a smaller user, the molly columns will end up farther to the rear, so it will require some thought about what to fit there so that it doesn't get in the way of the arms. Even if you're built like me, of course pouches on the sides can potentially interfere with belt gear, hence why I moved both grenades to the right side. As for the actual quality of construction, this is pretty solid. High stress areas are bar tacked and all the stitching is neat and tidy. While the size of the backing panel has been reduced as compared to the P83, it stays plenty rigid in use, and I have not experienced any flop or sagging with either reel or gas blowback magazines. This is the quality I expect of American-made gear, and it has stood up well to use so far. We'll circle back to the price and value after reviewing the Gorka. So, the K2 Gorka. This is another instance of Kommandostore taking a classic design and updating it to modern standards. As with the original, this is a 2-piece oversuit ensemble, with the pants supported by slightly adjustable suspenders and a jacket worn over top. The pants feature an elastic waist and elastic cuffs along the ankle to keep it tight, plus a stirrup strap on each leg that goes under the foot and keeps it from riding up. The jacket similarly has elastic to keep it fairly snug around the waist, and note that while the pants do have belt loops, it's better to wear a shooter's belt over top of the jacket with an HSGI sure grip adapter or equivalent. Both jacket and pants have a variety of quite roomy pockets, but most of the button enclosures are a little clumsy to use in a hurry, and since the pockets are so large, there's a real risk of the contents coming out if left unbuttoned. The shoulder pockets have Velcro, and I'm a little surprised they didn't just use Velcro for all the pockets. The jacket has a hood, and true to the marketing, it does hug the head better than the original Gorka hoods do. The material is an 80-20 polyethylene cotton ripstop blend, and while this is very durable and dries quickly, it is not waterproof and does not breathe particularly well. It's not so bad to sweat through, but in the rain it soaks through and gets pretty heavy. So overall, this is an only modestly modified iteration of the Gorka, with the biggest difference being how it's been slimmed down, which is a double-edged sword. Gorkas are mountain suits intended to trap air to keep the body insulated against wind in cold to temperate weather. This more contoured approach makes for a modern tactical sort of fit that moves well with the body, but since it doesn't wear like a burlap sack, it also doesn't trap as much air and consequently doesn't insulate as well. Still, with appropriate thermal underlayers, it's fine down to well below freezing, and with less insulation and quicker drying fabric, it's more bearable above room temperature and high humidity environments than original Gorkas. But I do wish they'd gone farther with modernizing. It doesn't have provision for knee pads, the button pockets feel antiquated, and wearing a modern belt requires either an adapter as shown or awkwardly tucking the jacket into the pants. As for the quality, well, the structural stitching is good with a solid stitch density and bar tacking where appropriate, and the material itself is robust, but the quality of manufacture is a little spotty, with noticeable quirks like uneven spacing on the button fly slots. More importantly though, even with relatively little use, there are noticeable areas where the stitching is coming loose and the threads are fraying. Now this may have been exacerbated by machine washing. I have heard people say you should only hand wash Gorkas, but my previous Bars Gorka has routinely gone through the wash over my 8 years of ownership, and it's doing just fine. I like the design of the K2, but a piece of tactical gear shouldn't be afraid of a washing machine, let alone when it carries a 3-digit price tag. And on that note, let's talk price. The P84 2.0 retails for $280 USD, and this is pretty darn expensive for a chest rig, making even Mayflower rigs or Cry plate carriers look like budget picks in comparison. But it is well made, with quality materials and construction, and more importantly, I think this just might be an exemplar of the medium chest rig concept that also supports everything from ARs to Saigas. If this layout and feature set doesn't have you already slapping your credit card against the screen, then it probably isn't worth the price tag for you. But if you like the old Pattern 83, or if you just like the idea of 6 mags plus support gear plus compatibility with pretty much any long gun, you're almost certainly going to like this. So for lack of better alternatives, I do recommend this as a buy once, cry once purchase, and I can say right now, this is my new go-to chest rig. Now the K2 Gorka is $300 to $320 depending on variant, and this is harder to recommend. It's in a sort of limbo, neither historically authentic nor fully modernized, and not particularly cheap for what you get. So the ideal audience would be someone who wants a Gorka, but not specifically an original Gorka, and isn't bothered by the high price for what you get. I guess that's me, but you probably aren't me. If you are me, it's not too late to get help. Well, we hope you enjoyed this quick look at 2 new entries to the gear market. Next time we'll be talking about those hand grenades that keep showing up in our videos, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks for watching.